Thanks, Natalie. Hi, welcome to 2022 Black History Month celebration with Songwriters Association of Canada. I am your host, Shanay Egwuenu. I am the freelance communications coordinator at S.A.C. for this year, and we have 4 weeks of panels lined up for you. Today's panel is Connecting Artists Now to a Historical Moment. When the subject of Black History Month arises every year in the diaspora, we see stories and facts reminding us of the contributions that Black people and our music has made to the modern world. We shouldn't ever forget about our past. The topic of this panel today is an ode to where our music started, how far it got us, and where we're headed. Who are your musical influences? What was the industry like before your career started? What would you like to see and hear in the future? And as a songwriter's focus, whose songwriting influenced you? Today, we have wonderful guests that are joining this panel. We have SATE Bey, singer, songwriter, vocalist, and might I add, daughter of the legendary Seny Bey, Canada's Woman of the Blues. I'm so excited. And next we have Seny Kassaye. She is a booking agent, one of the few Black female booking agents in Canada with Fort Agency, based out of Montreal. Now let's begin. I just want to start with an acknowledgement of the land of the Indigenous peoples of Takaranto. The land we are standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Songwriters Association of Canada is very, very interested in nurturing, developing, and protecting the creative business and legal interests of music creators in Canada, and will be celebrating 40 years next year. Why our panel is set up this way for 2022 is that the very important tenets of S.A.C. as a group, as an association, is that we stand for education, advocacy, and community. So through this year's panels, we want to deliver this information. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's begin. So SATE, I want you to introduce yourself, because I can say the things that I find remarkable about you, but I want you to talk to everyone here today.
My name is SATE, and I was born and raised in Toronto by an incredible power couple, Seny Bey and Howard Matthews. My mother, First Lady of the Blues, and my dad, restaurateur, one of the first soul food restaurants he owned here in Toronto. So community focused folks, very, very connected to culture, preserving legacy. And that's what I grew up in. That's where I'm coming from. That's my foundation. I'm a singer, songwriter, performer, actor, producer, writer, artist, visual artist. Just put me in it and I'll try it. If I like it, I'll continue it.
Nice, welcome, thank you. And we have here Seny.
Yes, so thank you again, Shanay and Songwriters Canada, for having me on this panel. It's very much appreciated. And like I said, I'm Seny. I'm a booking agent at Fort Agency, which is a female-led agency that operates out of Montreal with ties to Chicago, Atlanta, and Europe, UK, with a diverse, very beautiful, diverse roster with from various musical backgrounds and genres. I've dabbled in the music industry now for not that long ago, not that long ago, sorry about that. Maybe now it's been 2 years that I've actually started to take it like seriously and more professionally, but music has been a pillar in my life from the beginning of time and has saved, I would actually say that it has saved my life multiple times. And so I had to pursue it more professionally, and booking just kind of fell on my lap, and I've been in love ever since.
All right, welcome, thank you. So when we're talking about the subject of connecting artists now to a historical moment, as Black people, I know that, you know, celebrating Black History Month isn't new for us, but over the years, as organizations, artist groups, the industry has focused more during the month of February to look at the contributions of artists. Oftentimes they do bring up historical moments in time that, yes, they're very important. They are connecting the present to the past. But a lot of folks are now saying that, you know, I don't really want to hear over and over again what used to happen before. But at the same time, we don't want to forget. So I want to focus more on yourself, SATE. Like, what was it like growing up in a household with your mom, who is a legend, and the musical influences at the time, either as her career was building and maybe as your career was about to begin? What are the musical influences that you had growing up?
My mother is called Canada's First Lady of the Blues, but I would expand that to song and music because she loved music. It was about what stirred her, what moved her. So she wasn't ever boxed in, and she never liked genres. So she wasn't ever boxed into a genre of blues or jazz. She sang songs that she loved, a lot of pop songs. You know, she loved the Beatles. And so we had a huge variety of music. We had jazz, blues, we had rock, we had folk, country. You know, some of my favorites growing up are Funkadelic and Minnie Riperton and Chaka Khan and Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Prince, Joan Armatrading. You know, like it just spanned Billie Holiday, Bessie Smith, you know, like the foundation of music, which is blues. So that's my first influence, the foundation of all music's blues. Yeah. And from there, my career was inspired by just watching my mother, watching her not only take over and command a stage where she was in a club or in a theater, but also command a stage in a theater, or sitting down and writing plays, or being on television, or mentoring. Or so these are my cornerstones of what influenced me to do what I do. And then I sought out for, like, my foundation is blues, but because blues birthed so much, I gravitated towards stuff that was just raw and edgy and just a certain feeling. So I'm a huge musical theater nerd, but then I'm like a rock and roll kid, weird kid, you know, alternative. And so just like put it all together and I just want to feel, I want to move. I was dancing in school. So I've got a lot of influences moving around, moving through me, which helped me to create what I create visually and sonically. And I mean, really my solo career started later on in like when my mom's career was kind of slowing down. But my parents, both of my parents were always so supportive, and I was able to learn so much from watching her and also from the people that surrounded her. And not just her, my family. So much of my family are artists, all of them, like everyone sings and their face.
I want to ask, because you just mentioned like those who surrounded her,
Mm-hmm.
who are some of the, to keep it Canadian focused at first, who are some of the great Black Canadian artists that you were chanced to meet growing up?
I mean, some of her besties are like Jackie Richardson, Liberty Silver, was you know, just really the community was small. Yeah. So it's like anybody, she was reaching out and just like making sure that the connection was there. So it was Billy Newton Davis and Molly Johnson and Tabby Johnson and who else? Oscar Peterson, Oliver Jones, you know, like anybody, everybody. Ada Lee, Ola Skanks, you know, and these are people that I was a kid and I didn't really know who they were, and they're not like household names, but they paved the way for a lot of us to be able to do what we're doing.
Yes. And so I'm gonna pause here, and I want to now mention that the reason why this panel is very unique, we have on one end, from an artist perspective, the influences, the upbringing, Black music in Canada. And then now we have even, I want to call it a generation gap, because say you just brought up like a list of people, artists that some may know, may not know, which is fine. But now what I'm looking at is some of the issues that Black music creators might have ran into during the time that your mom was performing, building her career, singing, creating theater plays. What were some of the things that artists might have encountered during your mother's time? I want to focus on that a little bit.
I won't say it's the same as now, but it's very similar. The accessibility, booking agents, you know, people that, because so my mother ended up in 77, I think 76 or something like that. She wrote a play called Indigo, and that play won her a lot of awards, and it was televised, it was set for Broadway, you know, like this was her seminal work. Now, one of the things that there's press around Indigo where it was like, it had been sold out for over a year, and this was unprecedented in Toronto, lineups around the block. And in the press, it was like, but Canadians aren't supposed to like Black music. That was said in the press. So when that is something like, press was very different than looking through old press clippings, and I'm like, they said that? Like the ignorance, the gall, the whoa, wow. But it's like, ignorance, like ignorance as in naivete and just conditioning and really not knowing any better. To say something like Canadians, even though there was still diversity in the city, but not as much diversity in the city or in the country as there is now. Canadians are not supposed to like Black music, but Black music is everything. Black music is blues, is jazz, is rock and roll, is punk, is dance, is, is all of the music that was on the radio, is folk. That's Black music.
Yeah.
The banjo is a Black instrument.
Yeah.
So when something as ignorant as that comes out, it's kind of like, ooh, but not thinking, just not thinking because of erasure, because of, we can get into all of that, but I don't think that's the focus of this. So she was coming up against having to create space for herself and for other Black people to have a space to make the music and be who they are authentically versus maybe a caricature of themselves or just not even like the token one, maybe not even period, so making space so that there was work, because she was doing the club circuit, but then she got into theater and she really loved theater, and that took her back to New York. It took her to Broadway, and it just kept taking her back because of the fact that there wasn't a lot of work here for her to sustain as an artist. And that's similar still in Toronto. Like Montreal, I know is different for artists than it is in Toronto. Toronto is challenging to sustain as an artist.
Competitive.
It's competitive, but it's it's just, maybe it's competitive, but it's like, I still haven't put my finger on exactly what it is that makes it so hard for there's a lack of infrastructure support, a lack of valuing the artists and what they need to create the art, to sustain. Like, this is a job, this is a career, just like you getting on the bus and driving with the bus driver. Like, if you don't have music or art, trust me, it doesn't matter if you get on a bus. Yeah,
it's true. We've learned that during quarantine, lockdown, COVID, music really saved the day for a lot.
Music always saves the day. Music was never absent. It was never absent, and it could never be absent.
Right.
Art could never be absent. If it was ever absent, we wouldn't be here.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want to now make a segue, because you just mentioned a few things. You mentioned, as a Black music creator, having to choose between being your authentic self and or choosing to be a caricature, which is that word captures a moment in time in history for Black musicians. And then now you've also mentioned paving the way. And I'm finding those three things, it's almost like they have to happen in cycles of maybe a decade, where there's a constant paving of the way repeatedly, and then choosing to be authentic or not. It seems to be a historical cycle over and over again for the different genres of Black music. Now, so we talked about history, we talked about your mom being led to theater and Broadway, then you did mention booking agents. So now we're gonna turn this over to Seny. because now we're looking at generational. So from SATE's mom, Salome, to now the present time, and yourself being a booking agent in Canada a few generations later, and you're booking artists, are they predominantly Black music creators?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what is it like looking for venues for the artists that you're booking? I want to say Canada first, and then you can talk about the rest of the world or globally.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of the evolution of like acceptance of Black music and Black creators and artists, there is more of an openness. Um, the way I see it, and my kind of like dilemma, is that whether or not it's genuine, because now we've seen that Black music, Black individuals, Black identity is marketable, it's palatable to the greater white audience. And sometimes when working with promoters, I'm not trying to, especially in Canada, it's how can I say this? In Canada, it's kind of like the US. I'm not even gonna lie, they function kind of the same in terms of their approach and their willingness to open up the space to maybe Black artists that are not commercial. Because like I said, we have a variety of Black artists that do rock, that do like psychedelic rap, that do folk, from Baby Mother to Fly Anakin to a duo here called Zandoli 2 that really focus on folk African music in terms of their DJ sets and their producer task. They're also producers. So it's hard to kind of pitch that idea in terms of getting their shows, getting booked, so that we have to market them. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but market them so that the promoters are also interested in them, and kind of created that sense of, I apologize, I'm losing my train of thought.
No, that's okay. Like this is it's very new information.
Yeah, that
take time. Like I think this is going to be beneficial for many people, because I don't think they know this take on this discussion. Okay.
For me, I'm also still learning. I'm in this period of transitioning from kind of seeing music as more of a personal experience to now a professional and as my job, and I see that there is some type of reticence or kind of pushback for music or Black music that is not palatable to the greater audience. And for example, in Montreal, when it comes to rap, that has had a lot of issues in terms of, literally the government not wanting to have rap shows in Montreal because it was deemed to be violent and enticing violence and not, again, palatable for the white population here. Now that rap is now super popular, we see with French rappers, they're able to come in super, like, it's easy for them to book them here, especially because they are French. And Quebec is a French province, which tries to really push for French artists. And it's harder for English people to either get funding, to get even visas to come here because of Montreal kind of being closed-minded. But we are seeing that it's easier a bit more in the States. I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to musical openness and musical diversity, because the States have some type of evolutionary advance compared to Canada, especially when it comes to Black creators. But I feel like there is starting to be a change here a little bit more, for sure.
Historically, Canada is very young compared to the United
obviously,
States. And revolutionarily, Canada is nowhere in comparison. And there's a lot more people in the States, yeah.
Yeah.
Canada is a totally different beast than the States. Like I know from traveling,
Yeah,
doing Canada and then doing the States and then doing Europe, like those three territories are so different.
yeah. I would even say Europe, in terms of the demand for Black music and Black artists, it's way better than in North America.
They've
But
always
also
been.
people know their stuff. Like in
They
Europe, I've
really
been
do
to
promoters,
Amsterdam a few
and especially
times.
the
They know.
promoters.
Yeah, they
Oh, yeah,
know.
sorry, I kind of cut you off. I didn't hear what you
No,
said.
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
They know their stuff. They really do. And if it's not what they're looking for, they'll tell you that. They will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've been reached out by a lot of, I feel like even Fort has a stronger foothold in Europe and in the UK, because our roster is selected very carefully in terms of musical experience, musical background, musical diversity, and what the artist wants specifically. And it seems like Europe and the UK is where it matches the best, because it's not always about what is marketable, what is profitable. It's really about the music, which I and my partner Mira Silvers are having a bit more trouble, or a bit more pushback in North America, including Canada, with already like very limited venues here in terms of booking shows and tours. It's mostly like Toronto, obviously, and then Vancouver, Montreal. It's even less because again, the language and the politics here, it's not profitable for artists. But yeah, definitely Europe, it's been kind of a breeze. Obviously, I'm not gonna lie that there is again racial, cultural, and even I would say political kind of differences that kind of makes it harder, not only for us, but to really kind of push for the artist's well-being and push for their advantage in terms of really celebrating and highlighting their music. But Europe, I would say, they, like you said, they know their stuff and they know what they want, and they have a better understanding of the diversity of Black music in general.
So, okay, so now, this topic now comes into question where I'm thinking, how do you position Canadian artists? Like, state yourself as an artist, how do you position yourself overseas or the States? Is it bold, like you're Canadian, or is it just, I'm an artist and I'm going to deliver a great show? For yourself, Seny, when you're putting your artists from your roster out there, are you highlighting that they are from Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal? Or are you just saying they're a Black artist, it's great, it's eclectic, you'll like how are you pitching yourselves? Is Canada front and center in terms of your identity?
You want to go, Seny?
Oh yeah, sure. In terms of our identity as agents or the identities of the artists?
Both. Let's do both. Yeah.
Again, when I'm in meetings, I have to be completely honest. I do say that I'm in between Montreal and Atlanta when I'm actually just from Montreal. My partner is in between Chicago and Montreal, only because I can see and I can sense the bias when it comes with, like, again, dealing with American managers or European managers and artists, whereas Montreal, already Canada as a whole, like you said, a state, like the infrastructure is just not really existent. And then in Montreal, it's even less, even though the talent here, I can't even, it's amazing. It's things that you've never seen before, is so unique, but there's nothing for them to propel them outside of this province, outside of this country. And then like me, or a really good example would be Kaytranada, for instance, right? He got his fame, his acknowledgement from, again, Europe and then the States and then Canada after he won his Grammy. So when we are pitching, I would say that we're probably putting in that we're like Black artists, Black agents, in front, and already, because at least for myself and a lot of the artists that I work with, they prioritize their ethnicity first before their nationality. And that's because of, again, Canada is not a perfect country. We've all experienced some type of oppression, marginalization, microaggressions. And so it's kind of even more instinctual for us to say, I'm an Ethiopian Guinean agent. I am a Caribbean artist. I am, just because it's who they are as an artist first before a Canadian, based on their experience, for sure.
Wow, this is interesting. Okay, and how about yourself, Say, when you're traveling?
I think, well, for me, a lot of the positioning happened from showcasing, from connecting with organizations like SEMA and showcasing around the world, and doing, because they have something called Canada Blast, where they would basically plop themselves in the middle of, like, I've been to Australia, I've been to Singapore, I've been to London and Paris, Germany, with SEMA, being able to be on that showcase and then meet booking agents or bookers, club owners, different artists, you know, connect and network with those people. So the positioning for me has actually been Canadian,
Right.
you know, but, and this is, this is like a humble statement,
Yes.
but I love performing. So
Right.
when I got on stage, it's not about whether I'm Canadian or Black, it's like what I'm delivering.
Right.
And if the audience or the booker or the, you know, whoever is in the audience feels it and resonates with it, that's what I'm after. You know, just put me on stage. That's what I do. I will sweat for you, and you know, and for me too. You know, especially for me. So it is as much as, I mean, the whole Canadians, it's across the board. It's not just a Black thing. It's just not a melanated thing when it comes to Canadians and the rich talent pool here. It's across Canada that we've got gold and diamonds and precious jewels that we don't have the infrastructure for, that we do not value, like going to Europe and being fed and giving, like, giving a full rider upon a rider and a beautiful room, and, you know, not drink tickets. Like, that's a small thing, but it's a huge thing when you walk in to a venue that may not be the cutest venue, but they take care of you. They value you because they know that what you have to offer is something for their soul.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the case in Canada.
Yeah. I just want to shout out to the Canadian Independent Music Association, because you mentioned them.
Yes.
I think that they were an integral part of helping to uncover the behind the scenes when breaking down racial barriers occurred in 2020. They collaborated to do these panels to really get into it
and click.
To really get into the meat of the subject without any hesitation. So SEMA, wonderful. Yes. I laughed at the drink tickets because I'm coming from, like, the underground DJ world. From my,
you know exactly, the both of you know exactly what I'm talking about.
The more tickets you get, it's like the jackpot. But
like,
gosh, yeah, definitely.
Six guys in my band and I get 6 tickets? What? Are you kidding me? No, that's a slap in the face. And you want me to, and I will sweat and give my blood and my passion, and I don't discriminate to a venue or the lack of drinks, you know. But come on.
Yeah, I hear you. This is incredible. I want to bring the 4 questions that I wanted to ask so that people can kind of identify part-wise, like, how Black music influences them. So first question is for both of you, who are your musical influences?
Sure. I mean, it's really diverse. It runs the gamut. It really does. I will answer that my musical influences are whatever moves me spiritually and physically, inspires me. So it can be country, it can be folk, it can be rock, soul, whatever, music.
Mm-hmm. I would also agree with SATE that, and you also mentioned earlier that like, because of how you, like, when you grew up, you had so many different types of music playing. And that's kind of the same thing for me, that my mom is not an artsy person. She's not a creative. She's not a music person at all, but she did have, one thing she did love was music, and she loved to dance. And I remember every Friday from after when I came back from school, I would come home running because I know she would play either disco, some Buena Vista, salsa, merengue, or either traditional music from back home. She's Guinean, I'm from Guinea, or some Mariah Carey, Elton John. It was just such a like diverse, like just music playing all the time. And I also had the privilege to go to an art school growing up in primary and high school. So I played the trumpet for most of my life. Oh yes!
I did alt sax and clarinet.
Oh wow! Okay, wind. Okay, I always wanted to play the clarinet and the flute, only because I thought it was like a more girlier like instrument, but I could not make a sound in those instruments for the life of me. So they put me in trumpet, and I actually absolutely loved it. Like we were running the show, like the brass and back in the back, like we were running the show.
Always,
yeah. Like we were the most, like people were coming for us, obviously.
Yeah.
I love reading sheet music, and I miss that. And someone posted a meme on Instagram, and it had like different notes, and I was like, wow, like I remember this, like C, D, E, F note. Like these are things that I forgot, but it comes to me second nature because I was surrounded by music growing up.
Exactly. And also with that, we also had like vocal classes. Like it was part of the curriculum. It was an art school. So I was, again, exposed to jazz early on, blues, classical music, folk music, again, from different parts of the world. So it's just, it's hard to pinpoint a musical influence, but I have to say though, the woman that has shaped my view on music, and I was a big fan, was Missy Elliot. She was to me like everything that I wanted to be. She was like this cool, hip, like she did not care about the standards of beauty back in her days. And for me, she was kind of like a shapeshifter when I saw her like in her music videos, and I thought like, and today, thinking back, like as a Black woman, especially in this industry, or in life generally, we are meant to fit in this one box. We're not allowed to have our individuality outside of being a Black woman and what it is to be a Black woman. So for me, it's Missy Elliot. She unconsciously influenced how I see myself as a Black woman outside of these stereotypes and these lines and these boxes. And Janet Jackson too, because she was just fly. And I wasn't around like when she was actually, you know, like pop in, because I was born 1997. So it's later on, like it was kind of like a backwards trajectory for me. But learning through music and through my school, through my environment, I was able to go back, and Missy Elliott, Janet Jackson were my queens for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on, I have a lot of influences, but I would say in terms of the people that gave me permission to do what I do, how I do it, Fishbone, Living Color, and Betty Davis.
Okay, yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
When I first saw Living Color, I was like, I can do rock music. And then I saw Fishbone, and I was like, I can do this. This is amazing. And then I heard Betty Davis, and I heard her growl, and she was sensual and sexy, and And then I read more about how she was banned, and because she was so aggressive and
Very provocative. Yeah.
yes. And I was like, yes. Yes, I want that.
Yeah. So let's look at this now. What was the industry like before your career started? The reason why I ask these questions, it's so interesting to see what you both answer, but it's like showing how it's so similar at the same time, even though there's a gap of time. So what was the industry like before your career started?
That's a really hard question because of the fact that I was literally born into this. So I guess my career started when I was a teenager. I was in a rock band, and there weren't a lot of us there. And it's kind of the same in Toronto. It's kind of the same, Yeah.
Oh, well.
Sorry, I don't know what else.
Because no, just for me, in terms of working, like, again, from a booking agent, or like from the business side of music, because that's where I can position myself. I don't consider myself a creative in that sense of making music, but like, again, like I said earlier, like I started this two and a half years ago, so I'm still a newbie, but I feel like there is some type of a transformative thing that's happening with the industry where people are opening up their eyes, whether it's authentic or not, but that we are creating more opportunities for people of color, Black women, to take on these roles. Like, again, this is more in the States, but the CEO of Motown, Ethiopia Hapte Mariam, who's an Ethiopian like myself, that was like a win for me, because Ethiopians are very proud, first of all, but then also as a Black woman, just, being the CEO of this iconic record label that has, just basically helped shape music as we know today, is amazing. But it doesn't mean that we have reached the pinpoint or the peak of what the industry should look like. And even for me as a hopeful music exec, I kind of question whether or not like the record labels are even needed nowadays, because of social media, because of TikTok, because of the importance of independent music.
Right.
So what it looked like before, it was very much white, very much male, very much restrictive, and we are making strides in that sense. Canada, again, infrastructure. People are saying that, I don't know if you feel the same way, SATE, but like Drake somehow brought some type of infrastructure foundation because he made it out of Toronto. And I don't know, that's what exactly what I thought too. So, yeah, and I was like, no, well, has he really done anything for the country as a whole? Has he really come back and out?
You know what he's done? I will say this is what he's done. He's not the first person out, I'll say, out of Toronto to rep Toronto. Mm-hmm. He's not the first person out of Toronto, especially as a hip hop artist, to rep Toronto. Mm-hmm. But his star, like he like everyone else, had to leave Canada to get his star to blow up.
Yeah.
But what he did was he always repped Toronto. So now, actually getting back to your question, Shanay, what was the industry like before my career? Well, before saying I'm from Toronto, people were like, where? And now I'm from Toronto. people know where Toronto is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can say, I'm from Toronto. Oh, and they'll probably say, oh, Drake, oh, The Weeknd. But there's Jesse, there's there's a bunch of people from Toronto, and I think there's eyes on Canada, and there's eyes on, because I'm in Toronto, there's eyes on Toronto, but there's eyes on Canada.
Yeah.
Because Canada, even before Drake, way before Drake, like we talk about Oscar Peterson and we talk about Deborah Cox and Tamia and beyond that, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Rush, the list goes on. Canada has always been on the forefront, on the cutting edge of music and shifting music culture. But our infrastructure.
But I have if I have a question for you. Do you think, who is responsible of creating this infrastructure? Should it be the creatives that should maybe stay in their city and build from the ground up so that they can help themselves, they can help possible future generations? Should it be more funding? Should it be the government trying to step in? Because again, like from my point of view, who like from the younger generation, people are saying we gotta go, we gotta leave. But then I'm like, how if everyone leaves, who's gonna be there to build it up? Like
we can't. It's a tough situation because we can't leave in order to build. Like you can't leave the foundation of a home and go somewhere else and build a home and expect this home to be built.
Exactly.
You just can't. So it is I think it's a collaborative effort.
Definitely.
I think it definitely has to have the voice of the creatives in there. And it has to be like an open, unegotistical dialogue, because there are OGs that know a lot about this industry as it is, and we've got to learn from them. But then there are young ones coming up that don't know anything, and they're tilling, like all of us are tilling ground to create something that's uniquely Canadian. So it's like it has to be a coming together. And in terms of record companies, I don't think they're not valuable. I just think the structure has to change. I think,
and that's coming up a lot with the Spotify.
I mean,
topic.
that's a topic that's been happening for a long time. It didn't just come up now. It's just there's a light being shined on. Well, I mean, it's not really about the music, the light that's being shined. That's not what it's about. So people are still subscribing to a platform that pays artists nothing, but it's convenience. And this is like, it's deeper than what's in the media right now. It's way deeper. And if people want to go deeper and really want to support artists, it's moving to different platforms, or it's lobbying also for artists. If you really value the art,
So to focus on why S.A.C exists, I wanted to ask both of you about songwriting. Seny, I'm going to pose this question to you based off of the artists that you work with. Do you ever, when you're taking on artists onto your roster at Fort, are you ever looking at their artistic expression and their music in order to decide if you're going to bring them on? Is it anything you look at? Is it just maybe their image? Is it the pull that they have with their fan base? Like, what are you looking at that? Their creativity, their writing?
Okay, so there's obviously various factors that we have to take into consideration when we are trying to pitch for artists or sign artists onto our roster. Definitely, fan engagement is important only because promoters are going to look at that, venues are going to look at that, club owners are going to look at that. In terms for us, what we look for, like the people that we have signed is because we are genuine fans of their music, that we followed them from time, and again, our roster is very specifically curated. It's not artists that we're trying to get for money or for fame, if anything. Again, Mira, my partner, has been doing this for I cannot even tell you for how long. And she's been in it because of the love of music, because she wants to bring a voice, especially to the marginalized, to those who have been pushed aside from this industry, and bring them to light. And some artists on our roster want money, they want the fame, they want to elevate the career to a certain point. And a lot of them don't. They just want to perform. They just want to be on stage and showcase their music. And we follow that. We follow what they want exactly. In terms of their creativity, like I said, we go for music that we actually genuinely listen to. For instance, like my first artist that I booked is actually a group from the UK called Children of Zeus. They're an R&B, neo soul, duo. They're
did you say Children of Zeus?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They're like, old heads. They've been in the game for years now, and I pursued them because their music speaks to me, and I know it speaks to a lot of people. And so that's generally one of the first key things that we look for, is like, do we love your music and do we love your creative ideas? And that's why our roster is so specifically curated and picked, because it's kind of a reflection of our musical taste. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. And yourself, SATE, like for your songwriting, how do you gather the creative components to pull together a song? Is it inspiration from nature? Is it writing poetry? Is like how are you gathering for the songwriting process?
The songwriting process varies for me. So it is inspired by just plain and simple life experience. So it is nature, it is conversations, it is a movie that I saw, it's a dream that I had, it's a vision that I like. It is everything. It's of me, right?
Yeah. Okay. So as we're slowly closing out our conversation, I want to ask both of you, what would you like to see for the future in terms of Black music in Canada?
I would like to see in terms of Black music in Canada, I would like to see support. I mean, it's always about support. But where I'm coming from, doing rock and roll or rock music, I'd love to see more support for and diversity on stage, inclusion, and not. It's really challenging because Black History Month comes along and it becomes very diverse for the month of February. It becomes very Black for the month of February. And, I know that people are trying, it's a reprogramming to be inclusive, to be diverse. It's a strange thing for some people to not see themselves on stage.
Yes.
If it's an all Black show, they can't relate somehow, but somehow all my life I've been able to relate. So it's less about the token, the one, the two. It is about making music and platforms and being inclusive of great music, not just because it's Black or because it's, you know,
Yes.
because it's a woman or because like open your minds and just open up, go outside of your comfort zone. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
For music, for Black music, for music in Canada.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Sending
yourself?
Yeah, honestly, I agree exactly with what you're saying, especially again coming from a background where I was able to be exposed to different types of music. It was a privilege, but that should be not a right, but it should be everyone's experience, regardless of your background, because the art of music is so powerful, and it shouldn't be just confined to one type of box. You know, again, go outside of your comfort zone. And in terms of funding, in terms of support, that should also reflect not just what is cool, what is hip, what is profitable, but just support the art of music. And I would also add on to that from, again, the business side of music in Canada specifically, that positions as like booking agents, marketing execs, A&Rs, and whatever, any type of position in the industry should be marketed more to the general population. Because again, to me, booking agents, it's like, I couldn't even imagine this happening in Canada. It's weird, but it's like, it's not pushed enough. It's either like, again, like A&Rs are the traditional like executive positions, but even then it's like, it's better if you go to the States or if you go to Europe. I want people to see like, hey, maybe not me, but for example, like one of the few Black agents that in Canada, I want that to be everywhere. So people are like, oh wow, like I can make a career in music. I'm a Black woman. I am from this background, from that background, and I can make it here. I can try to have a career here first before maybe potentially moving away. And that's not, unless you're in the industry, unless you're in that circle, you can never know. And that's not accessible. That's, again, very much marginalizing a big group of people who don't have that privilege to be in this space. And I want people to see, like, we are making strides in Canada. We are creating these positions. We are filling these positions that are important for music, Black music. And I want that to be all over. I want people to know that they can pursue a creative, professional career, especially in music, because it's hard, but it's there for them if they want to.
Wonderful. I'm so glad we had this conversation today. On behalf of S.A.C, I want to thank you both. I just want to mention before we close where we can find both of you. For SATE, it's her website is SATE of SATE, STATEOFSATE.com. And for Seny at Fort Agency, it's SENY at Fort, FORT-agency.com.
And all of my socials are State of SATE as well.
Okay, so. Great. And the conversation doesn't end today. This is week 1 of our 4 week of panels for the month of February. So I'll see you next week. And thank you, SATE and Seny, for this wonderful conversation. Take care.